Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Bari and more specifically its campus and the city. Also, by the way, for those of you who don't know, we have a Discord server where we have students from all of the different universities. I'm usually in there. We have a few graduates of the course. We even have a lot of IMAT related channels where there's question solving, etc. If that's something that you might be interested in, I'll put the link in the description. So as always, we'll start with a general view of the Bari campus and its hospital, and then we'll move on to, in my opinion, the more important part, which is the city itself. Funnily enough, when I was walking around the campus, we ran into two students who watched the channel and were there to actually check out the campus itself. And we recorded a kind of first impressions of everyone. So you'll also be getting their view and not only mine in this video. And again, as always, there's going to be some biases in this video. I had a great time because I was there with my friends, and my friend Divjot cooked us amazing Indian food. So my experience is quite a bit clouded by that. It was really, really good. So starting with the campus, I absolutely loved the Bari campus. You go in through what looks like it's going to be a building, but it's kind of a gate. And when you go through it, it is this huge open space with beautiful marble floors. There's palm trees. It's just so spacious and green, and the vibes are just so good. You definitely could tell that it's like a Mediterranean university. I was just blown away by the second you walk through the door how nice and big it is. And like I said, there were palm trees, which I absolutely loved. There was greenery and the sun was coming down. It just looked really, really nice. We were there with students of Bari, so we were able to sneak into the classes to see it. We were in two different classrooms. The classrooms are quite small, but when we considered the course size of Bari, it actually makes sense. It's not too small, but it's a lot smaller compared to some of the other classrooms I've been in. The classrooms are quite modern, they're quite bright and clean. The Wi-Fi was excellent. I was able to connect to it even though I'm not a student there. And as always in all of the universities, the lectures are delivered via projector presentations. There is a library on that campus that has 2 floors. The footage is really shaky, so I'm really sorry. I have to say there were a very limited number of seats. The library itself was really nice and big and spacious with really high ceilings. The desks all had plugs and lights, so it did look like a really, really nice place to study. But I did notice that there were a limited number of seats, so if it's during the exam session, it's probably going to be quite hard to get one unless you go really early in the morning or you ask a friend to hold a seat for you. So other than this small consideration, I did feel like the medical campus's library was quite nice. Another thing to note is that this campus that I'm showing you is connected to the hospital, and this is where you have your lectures. However, Bari's main campus, I think, if I remember correctly, is its law faculty, which is a little bit further out. It's a 10-15 minute walk from the hospital campus, so there might be more libraries there, but I only walked in front of it, so I don't know inside if there are more libraries, but on campus this seems to be the only real study spot. We also went into a cafe that they have there, and the prices were very reasonable. And a thing I like about Bari is that they always serve you a little glass of water with your coffee, which someone explained to me is actually a southern Italy thing, so I really like that. So yeah, there's a bar or a cafe in Italy, they call them bars, and the hospital is right next door. Well, it's kind of built into that campus, and it has a open concept hospital, kind of like Sapienza's and Bologna's and some of the other universities we've seen. This in general is quite interesting to me in Italy because where I'm from in Ireland, hospitals are usually just one big building with all the departments in it, but Bari has a open concept hospital, so there are different buildings that are stacked next to each other, which are the different departments. I didn't really go into any of the departments, so I don't know what the inside of the hospital looks like. We only went into one department, and that was just because we kind of had to use the bathroom, so I don't know if this is what all of the rest of them look like, but it's right next to the medicine campus, so you'll be doing your lectures basically inside of the hospital. I'll put a picture of the map here so you can kind of have a better idea of the bearing. But yeah, overall, it's really nice. It's like open air, and I think that's really important because you have to consider Bari is in the south and it's a coastal town, so the weather is usually really good throughout the year. Like I was there in November and it was super sunny and super nice. Like it wasn't too warm, it wasn't too cold, it was just perfect sunny weather. And so I think this is also an advantage that if you're doing, you know, your clinical rotations there, that you can go outside and enjoy the sun, having a coffee, but also like on your campus there's like all these beautiful palm trees. And I don't know, I really liked the Bari campus and hospital, although again I didn't really go inside the hospital, so I don't know how nice it is, but you know, from the outside and walking around, I kind of like the vibes of it a lot. So now we'll show you what our first impressions were, because I did this tour like almost 16 months ago, so I don't remember some of it, but yeah, I hope that this is a little bit more enlightening. Jace, what are your first impressions of Bari University?
My first impression, it's really nice, it's very chill, quiet, beautiful weather. It's November and I'm still, you know, wearing shirts. Really nice. I like the people here, very friendly, very cheery. Positive vibes all around.
And Julian, is it a first year? Soon? Yes.
Got really lucky, got a free tour with
It's okay.
yeah, it's pretty modern and spacious university campus. I reckon it would like satisfy like most students, you know. It's, you know, I used to study UCD and I'm pretty happy with the stuff.
My first impressions is it's very cheerful and joyful. Like it feels like really open, there's fresh air, there's green. Like walking around, like I could feel the serotonin on my skin from the sun. You know, like I felt it was very clean. I really liked it.
Yeah man, palm trees all around.
There's palm trees, yeah, because like in Rome, like my lungs feel full of like urine smell and like pollution, and here smoke, yeah, a lot of smoke, you know, a lot of nicotine that I'm not even smoking.
Yeah,
secondhand. But here it's like super clean, like it's wide, it's fresh. I don't know, like it just feels like a very summer university.
Yeah,
it feels like if university was a summer holiday. That's what it feels like.
Very cheap too. Very cheap.
Yeah, and cheap.
Yeah.
So on to the more important part, which is the city itself. I need to be upfront about something real fast before I go on to the city. I think Bari might be one of the dirtiest cities I've been in Italy. Like the old town part is super nice, like super nice. I'm going to talk a bit more about that. It's super clean. Along the coast it's super nice and super clean. Around the campus is nice. But in the neighborhoods that at least we were staying in, or we visited other friends in, I was quite surprised. They seem to have a problem with people not picking up their dog's poop while they're on walks. I don't know if this is a general Italy thing, because it's something I see all the time in Rome as well, which is not something I ever see in Ireland. But yeah, I was kind of surprised by how dirty the streets in Bari were. But to me, I don't think it should make that much of a difference on your like decision, because again, the places where you're going to be spending most of your time are fine. The neighborhoods are fine. Like the buildings are fine. They're great. They're good. Just I did notice that the streets were a little bit dirtier than I was expecting. Like Rome is a dumpster fire city. It is so bad. But when I came back to Rome, I was surprised by how clean it was compared to some of the streets in Bari. However, the rest of the city was incredible. I absolutely loved it. The vibes were so good, especially the part called Old Town, which is kind of like this little grid of really small, narrow streets, and the buildings are like really antique, and just walking through it is such a pleasant experience. I don't know how to explain it, but like it's just the vibes when you're there and walking through it. It's really romanticized your life. I really enjoyed it. They're just so cute. Like I don't know how else to explain the vibes of Old Town, but it's just really cute, and like it's so clean and so nice, and it's really interestingly laid out. On the other side is basically along where the coast is, and there are so many good places to eat. Like I think Bari might have some of the best food I've had in Italy. It's like in Puglia, which is a region, but it has a lot of like Calabrese influences. So I think like my entire trip was very colored by like how good the food was. The things that I really recommend you try if you ever visit is focaccia barese, which is kind of like this fluffy bread, but it has like tomato sauce. You can get other things on it. It is so good. And then something called panzerotto, I think, which is like fried, and these little circles called taralli. All of the food was amazing. It has a lot of fried food, like its regional food is very fried, but it's not fried in a way that you eat it and then you feel horrible for months afterwards. Like, oh, just all the food was so good. Also, again, because it's a coastal town, the seafood is going to be amazing. There were a lot of like different interesting seafood concept places. The food was so good, and along the coast was great. Old Town was great. It's so nice to live so close to the beach. Like, that's another thing that you have to consider. The summer exam sessions in Italy, like there are memes about how horrible the exam sessions are, especially during the summer. It's 2 months of cramming. And like, I can't imagine how nice it must be to live like a 10-15 minute cycle from the beach where you just get to go and relax with your friends and you just go into water. Like, even like just thinking about it now just has me thinking, should I move to Bari? On the note of cycling, the city is quite flat and it's quite small. So like all the places you will go to are very well connected. So it is a city that you can cycle in very easily. However, you know, like I also made this point about Padova that it's like that. I feel like it might be a little bit more risky to cycle in Bari, but it is very cyclable as well, which is quite nice in my opinion. The city at night is also really beautiful. There's this huge lighthouse on the coast that you can go to get a view of the entire city, and it's just so peaceful and quiet, and like, you know, all the lights. It's just really, really beautiful to go to at night as well as during the day. And one of the most important parts is that I think Bari might be the cheapest city I've visited in Italy. Now, to be fair, I haven't traveled like all that much of Italy, but I think out of all the places I've gone to, Bari is definitely the cheapest. Like, not only from like coffee and food wise, well, especially food wise, like some of the food we were eating, whenever they would bring the bill, I was really surprised at just how cheap the city was. But also the rent. The rent is so cheap. Like when my friends told me, because we went to see 3 different apartments that our friends live in, when they told me the rent that they were paying, I was furious. I was so upset that I had to pay so much in Rome. Like I always knew Rome was an expensive city, but I was shook how cheap the rent is in Bari. And this is also an advantage because Bari isn't a university-focused city like Padova or Pavia or Bologna, where they're having serious housing crisis issues with students trying to find housing. Also in Rome and Milan, but that's like a different story. So I think that's also a huge advantage, that you're probably not going to struggle that much. I mean, I say probably, I haven't been doing the research myself, so take it with a pinch of salt. But from talking to the students there, it's not that difficult to find affordable living houses, especially if you're willing to share a house. While I did say that there are beaches you can go to, which again, I think is a huge advantage, there are buses that you can take to nearby towns. Some of the most famous ones are, when you look up a picture actually of Bari, usually the place that comes up is a place called Polignano a Mare, which is like 1 bus ride away. While we were there, we went to a place called Alberobello, which has these really cute, unique cottage looking things. It's like pretty famous in Italy, this little town. However, when we were there, it rained and it actually flooded the town, which was very disappointing. But yeah, that was just like a 45-minute bus ride away. There's also Matera. Like, there are all of these other little towns, like really interesting tourist places you can go to by bus for pretty cheap. So I think this is also a huge selling point, because you might consider that Bari is like pretty small, which is like nice and livable, etc., etc. But your options aren't limited because you have all of these other little regions that are really easily connected by bus. I think in general, I just had like a really positive experience in Bari. Also because our friends were there, and like I said, like Divjot made us amazing food, and I got to walk around with my friends and the people were nice. Like, I had a really, really good time in Bari. So campus wise, like, it passes the vibe check for me. It has palm trees, and like that's all you really need, honestly, if you think about it. It has a beach, amazing, and it has really, really good food, and it's cheap. The only other thing I want to mention, and this could be a coincidence, it could be a coincidence, but I think it's worth mentioning because in my 7 years of being in Italy, this has never really happened to me, but when we were in Bari, it happened twice, that they rang up the wrong bill for us. So when they brought us the little like receipt to show what we ordered, the prices were completely different. And before the Italians come for me in the comments, I know that it's different if you sit at the bar versus if you actually like go and sit at a table. I've been here for ages, I know that. It wasn't that. It was more like, for example, if we had 2 Aperol Spritz, they would write that we had 3. Or if we like ordered one type of coffee, it was like a much more expensive coffee, and like a different type of dessert that was more expensive that they put on the bill. This happened in 2 different places. Again, it could be a coincidence, mistakes happen, but I did think it was worth mentioning. I don't know if it's just because they saw that we were speaking English or something, but the second I went up to, and I talked to them in Italian explaining that this is not what we ordered and I think you wrote the wrong things down, they were kind of like, and then, when I was just like, no, listen, this is what we ordered, they changed it and did the correct order. So it wasn't a problem really, but I did think it was a bit weird of a coincidence that it happened twice in 2 different places, whereas it's never really happened before. Again, it could be a coincidence. I don't think it's good to generalize an entire city just because this happened. But yeah, overall, I really liked Bari's campus, I really liked the city, and I really loved the food. And I really want to thank Divjot again and Jivan for hosting us and giving us an amazing tour and amazing food.